Mark Shapiro, if you listen to the podcast, the first podcast guest, I was honored to have Mark be the first guest. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, it's probably my favorite, just because Mark hits everything that we're trying to do in terms of the podcast, in terms of his business acumen, and what he's done in terms of talent and deals. So nobody better knows where the puck is going before it gets there. So Mark, and if you don't know, which I'm sure most of you do, he's the president and chief operating officer of TKA Group Holdings, Inc., and the president and managing partner of WME Group. And Mark, really appreciate you joining us.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So where I want to start, because we did part one, where we went through, your career and how you got to ESPN. I think I kind of want to look a little bit at the future to start. And where do you see the opportunity in sports media?
Yeah, I think today, first of all, I think it's really exciting that sports is so far ahead of everything else right now. All forms of content. It's all come back around. Movies, books, TV, short form, creator economy, you name it. And somehow, over the course of all these years, sports, which always had a nice place in the park, if you will, has risen to the top. And I think a lot of that is obviously driven by social media and streaming, and people want to watch when they want to watch. But when it comes to sports, you don't have that luxury, right? It's you follow rivalries, you follow certain players, personalities, you have the team that you love or you've watched your whole career, your whole life, and you want to be there when it's happening live. You want to be at the center of the conversation. And I think to your question on media, today nothing's more important than live experiences, premium content, and live content. That's that's the center of the universe right now. And you can be a secondary or tertiary sport, but it doesn't matter if you could put a good game together, good storyline, good narrative, good personalities, you can get behind and market that, then you can build a following. And so sports is really having its moment right now. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, I tend to agree, in part because, a lot of media is getting narrower. You're seeing cuts, but when you look at live sports, there's just more and more players. And you just did deals, Paramount and CBS, $7.7 billion over 7 years for UFC. Then you just did another agreement with ESPN for your PLEs for WWE, which is $325 million per year, 5-year deal. Just first off, I just want to understand.
I didn't confirm any of those numbers.
Yeah, okay, all right, they're all correct. Give me an understanding of the process of those deals and when you start negotiating, and just a little behind the scenes in terms of how you get there.
Look, it's relationships first and foremost, right? And it's not relationships when you need those relationships. It's relationships that are genuine and authentic, and you've built them over the years, and you understand each other's businesses, and you understand the definition of partnership, and you feed each other, and you grow together. Period. End of story. And there's a lot of platforms out there, and there's a lot of folks managing those platforms and understanding their businesses and their metrics and their ROI parameters and what makes them successful is, I think, part of the job, certainly for where we sit. So you have this universe out there, and you still have linear networks that need content. And then you have all these streaming networks or platforms that are playing it in different phases. Some are just looking for premium content, big tentpole events, and some are looking for volume, and some are just looking for volume, and some are just looking for both. And really knowing those platforms, knowing the decision makers at those platforms, knowing what will move the needle for those platforms, because at the end of the day, you're not just taking UFC out the market trying to get the highest price. That's short-sighted. You're playing the long game, right? We're only 30 years into the UFC. We're not 100 years like Major League Baseball or the NFL. We have a long future in front of us, and we're diverse, and we're global, and we're young, and we're shareable. But where we go to the next 7 years, right, determines really long-term just how high the ceiling is for these sports, or can be for these sports. So you're out there trying to do two things. What's best for reach and the brand, and then what's best from a monetization perspective. If you're a private company, different story. You got your own numbers, you got your own investors, it's not public. If you're a public company, you have expectations that are out there that if you're not hitting those expectations, those estimates, right, your stock price is going to go the other way. And ultimately, too often you're judged only by that. So I would just say, like, whether it's UFC or WWE or professional bull riding or any other sports property, remember IMG is part of TKO. I mean, we're negotiating 150 different properties with 160 different territories every single year. So we have to know the markets, we have to know the platforms, we have to know the decision makers in those markets or of those platforms. And we have to be able to test really the spectrum of the end game, how high it can go, how you can monetize it, and how ultimately it's going to grow audience and brand.
It's Andrew Marchand here, reminding you, if you want to listen to the rest of the podcast, andrewmarchand.com to become a full-time subscriber. We're presented by WSC Sports, Digital Asset Management. You have to use them, WSC-sports.com for more. And to listen to the full podcast, andrewmarchand.com. You get all our podcasts twice a week, as well as all of our archives, including Mark Shapiro's first interview, the first interview ever done for Marchand Sports Media, andrewmarchand.com. Now back to Mark. Now, when I look at those deals, though, the UFC deal.
And Simon, sorry.
Well, I'm about to get there. I'm going to kind of get there because I wanted to ask you, you've been doing this a long time. Mark was running ESPN's programming production at 31. And, it's pretty quick. We'll get into that in a second. But I would think patience. For my career, like I've learned, patience is kind of, and you hit those deals at the right time in terms of, but that doesn't happen by accident. You have to read the market. You have to understand it.
That's right.
So for Paramount, obviously they had the ownership change with David Ellison. And then with ESPN, they started going direct to consumer. Those were two things that worked in your favor. Very good timing. Just give me a little background on that.
I think you nailed it right there.
All right. Well, there you go. I'm done.
No, you're
okay.
We
don't need you.
You're dead center pinpoint on that. Look,